The rain had been falling since before sunset, slow at first, then heavier as the sky darkened and the clouds rolled low over the river. Most people had already gone home. The park near the water was quiet except for the steady rush of the current and the soft tapping of rain against metal benches and empty picnic tables. The streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long yellow reflections across the wet pavement. Under the old bridge, tucked between two concrete pillars, a boy named Eli pulled his thin jacket tighter around his shoulders. He was 15 years old. He hadn't always lived under a bridge. Once, a long time ago, he had a small bedroom with blue walls and a window that faced the sunrise. But life had a way of changing fast when adults made bad choices and promises disappeared. Now, Eli slept wherever he could stay dry. Cardboard layered under a frayed sleeping bag. A backpack with 2 changes of clothes, a half-broken flashlight, and a notebook filled with sketches. He liked to draw when his hands weren't numb from the cold. Faces, motorcycles, rivers, imagined places he might someday go. Tonight, the air felt different. The river was louder than usual. Swollen from days of rain upstream, the water moved fast, dark and heavy, pushing branches and debris along like toys. Eli stood and stepped closer to the edge of the embankment, watching the current swirl around rocks and broken concrete. He always respected the river. It could look calm one moment and turn violent the next. That's when he heard it. Not thunder. Not wind. A voice. Faint at first. Almost lost in the rush of the water. Help, help me. Eli froze. He turned his head slowly, listening. The sound came again, clearer this time, carried by the wind. Please, someone. His heart kicked hard in his chest. He followed the sound toward the riverbank, stepping carefully over wet stones and slippery mud. The rain soaked through his shoes, but he didn't care. He crouched low, peering through the darkness. And then he saw her. A small figure near the edge of the river, standing too close, her white cane angled awkwardly against the rocks. Her hair was soaked and plastered to her face. She looked terrified, her arms reaching out blindly into empty space. She couldn't see how close she was to falling. "Hey!" Eli shouted. "Don't move!" The girl flinched at the sound of his voice. "I can't find the path," she said, her voice shaking. "I was waiting for my dad. I heard the water and I got turned around." The ground beneath her foot crumbled slightly, small stones slipping into the river below. Eli's stomach tightened. One wrong step and she'd be swept away. "Okay," he said slowly, trying to keep his voice calm. "You're okay. Just stay where you are. I'm coming closer." He approached carefully, keeping his balance on the slick rocks. The river roared only a few feet away now. The current slammed against the bank with frightening force. Up close, he could see how young she was. Maybe 10 or 11. Her eyes were unfocused, staring past him into nothing. Her hands trembled as she clutched the cane. "My name's Lily," she said. "I can't see. I'm blind." "I'm Eli," he replied. "You're gonna be okay, Lily. Just listen to my voice." Another chunk of wet soil slid loose beneath her shoe. She cried out and stumbled forward. Eli lunged and grabbed her wrist just as her foot slipped into the water. The cold current splashed up, soaking both of them. For a split second, Eli felt the river pull at her leg like a living thing trying to drag her under. He dug his heels into the mud and pulled with everything he had. "Hold on to me," he shouted. She grabbed his sleeve with both hands, clinging tight. With a desperate tug, Eli pulled her back onto stable ground. They both collapsed backward, breathing hard, rain mixing with sweat and river spray. Lily started to cry, her whole body shaking. "I thought I was going to fall in," she whispered. "You almost did," Eli said softly. "But you're safe now." He helped her sit up and guided her farther from the edge. His hands were muddy and shaking too, but he stayed calm for her sake. "Where's your dad?" he asked. "He rides with a motorcycle club," she said. "They're meeting near the road up there." He told me to stay on the path, but I got scared when it started raining and I couldn't hear him anymore. Eli nodded. He'd seen them sometimes. Big bikes. Leather jackets. Loud engines that rattled the bridge. The Hells Angels. He didn't say the name out loud, but he already knew who she meant. We should get you back to the path, he said. As he helped her stand, a sudden loud crack echoed across the river. A section of the embankment collapsed. The ground beneath Eli's feet gave way. Before he could react, both of them slid toward the water. Eli wrapped his arms around Lily and tried to dig his fingers into the mud, but it was too slick. They slid straight into the river. The cold hit like a punch to the chest. The current immediately grabbed them and pulled them downstream. Lily screamed. Eli gasped for air as water rushed over his shoulders. His backpack tore free and disappeared into the dark current. He kicked hard, trying to keep their heads above water while holding Lily close against him. The river was moving faster than he expected. Every second carried them farther from the bank. He spotted a half-submerged fallen tree ahead, its branches reaching into the water like crooked fingers. That was their only chance. Lily, he shouted over the roar of the water, when I tell you, grab the branch and hold on tight. She nodded frantically, trusting him completely. The current slammed them toward the tree. Eli timed it. Now! He kicked with everything he had and shoved Lily toward the branch. She caught it with one hand, then the other, wrapping her arms around the wet wood. Eli grabbed on too, his fingers burning from the cold and strain. The water tried to rip them away, but they held on. They clung there, shaking, soaked, barely hanging above the raging current. On the riverbank in the distance, voices began shouting. Flashlights flickered through the rain. Motorcycle engines roared to life. Help was coming. But Eli's arms were already weakening. And the river wasn't done fighting yet. If this feels right for your channel and TTS style, tell me and I'll continue with part 2, where the bikers reach the river, the rescue intensifies, and the emotional connection really kicks in. Yes. Eli's fingers felt like they were made of ice. Every wave slammed against his chest and arms, trying to tear him away from the branch. His muscles burned from holding Lily and gripping the slick wood at the same time. Rain blurred his vision, but he could see the flashlight beams growing brighter on the riverbank. Shouting cut through the storm. Over here. I see them. Multiple voices now. Deep voices. Urgent. Angry at the river, not at the people in it. Motorcycle engines revved nearby, then cut off one by one. Boots pounded against wet ground. Eli lifted his head and yelled as loud as he could, "We're here. We're stuck on the tree." A powerful flashlight beam locked onto them. "There's a kid in the water with her," someone shouted. The beam shifted, revealing a group of large men in leather jackets gathered along the muddy bank. Even from a distance, Eli could recognize the patches. Winged skulls. Bold red lettering. Hell's Angels. For a split second, fear flickered through him. He'd heard the stories everyone had. Dangerous. Unpredictable. Not people you wanted to cross. But right now, none of that mattered. They were the only help they had. One man pushed forward to the edge of the bank. He was tall and broad, his beard soaked from the rain, his face pale with panic. "Lily," he shouted. "Baby. Can you hear me?" Lily lifted her head weakly. "Dad?" Her voice cracked with relief and fear. The man's chest hitched as if he'd been holding his breath for hours. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here. Hold on. We're getting you out." He turned sharply to the others. "Get a rope. Now." Two bikers ran back toward the bikes and saddlebags, digging through gear. Another biker grabbed a long fallen branch and tried extending it toward the tree in the river, but it was too short. The current surged again. Eli felt his grip slip slightly. He tightened his hold and gritted his teeth. His arms were shaking uncontrollably now. "It's okay, Lily," he said through clenched teeth. "Just keep holding. Don't let go." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. But you're doing great." A rope came flying toward the edge of the river. One biker quickly tied a loop while another anchored the rope around his waist and a nearby tree. "I'll go in," the biker said. Lily's father grabbed his arm. "No, you'll get swept too. We do this smart." They repositioned, lowering the rope carefully into the water, trying to guide it toward Eli and Lily. But the current kept pushing it away. Eli's arms screamed in pain. His hands felt numb. The branch creaked under the strain. The river surged harder. The tree shifted slightly. Eli's heart slammed in his chest. "We're losing the branch," he shouted. Lily whimpered. Her father's face went white. "Hold on," he yelled. "Don't let go." Eli knew they didn't have much time. He made a decision in a split second. "Lily," he said firmly, forcing calm into his voice. "When the rope comes close again, I'm going to push you toward it. You grab it and don't let go, okay?" "What about you?" she asked. "I'll be right behind you." It wasn't a lie exactly. It just wasn't the whole truth. The rope swung closer again, finally within reach if they timed it right. "Now!" Eli shouted. He released one hand from the branch and shoved Lily gently but firmly toward the rope. She reached out blindly, fingers searching desperately. Her hand caught the rope. A biker immediately pulled, tightening the line. "Got her," someone yelled. Lily screamed as the rope lifted her partially out of the water. The bikers coordinated, slowly dragging her toward the bank. Eli held onto the branch, watching her move farther away. Relief flooded his chest. She was going to make it. But the moment his full weight shifted back onto the branch alone, it snapped. The rottenwood broke free with a sharp crack. Eli plunged back into the river. The current swallowed him instantly. He went under, cold water filling his mouth and nose. His body spun violently, disoriented, the surface disappearing above him. He fought to swim up, but the river dragged him sideways. His lungs burned. Darkness closed in around the edges of his vision. Above the water, shouting exploded. The kid went under. "Throw the rope. Move. Move." Eli burst back to the surface for a split second, gasping for air before another wave slammed into his face and pushed him under again. He tried to kick, but his legs felt weak and heavy. His fingers scraped against something solid. A rock. He grabbed it desperately. The current ripped at his arm, trying to peel him off. He clung to the rock with everything he had left. His vision blurred. His body shook uncontrollably. He didn't know how much longer he could hold on. On the bank, Lily was pulled safely onto the mud. She coughed and cried, wrapped instantly in her father's arms. "Eli," she screamed. "He's still in the water. He saved me." Her father's head snapped up. "What?" he shouted. "He pushed me to the rope." Lily cried. "He's drowning." Without hesitation, Lily's father grabbed the rope and started tying it around his waist. "I'm going in," he said, his voice steady and dangerous. Two bikers grabbed him. "You'll get pulled under." "I don't care," he snapped. "That boy saved my daughter. I'm not letting him die." They secured the rope around him and anchored it to two trees. He didn't wait another second. He plunged into the river. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. That's where the rescue hits its peak and the emotional payoff starts landing hard. Yes. The moment Lily's father hit the water, the river tried to take him too. It slapped him in the chest, shoved him sideways, pulled at his boots like hands. But he was bigger than Eli, heavier, stronger, and he'd come in prepared, with a rope locked tight around his waist and two men braced behind him on the bank. Still, it was ugly. It wasn't a clean swim. It was a fight. "Keep tension," one biker shouted, digging his heels into the mud as the rope jerked hard. "I got him. I got him," another yelled, grabbing the line with both hands. Lily's father kept his face up, eyes scanning the water in the flashlight beams. "Eli!" Lily screamed from the shore. "Eli, I'm here." Her voice carried across the rushing water, thin and trembling, but real. Eli heard it. Barely. He was half hanging onto a slick rock near the edge, his arm wrapped around it like a lifeline. Every time he tried to pull himself up, the river yanked him down and banged him back against the stone. His fingers were numb. His whole body shook so hard he could barely control his grip. He coughed and spit river water, gasping like he'd never breathe enough again. A flashlight beam caught him. "There," someone shouted. "Left side, near the rocks." Lily's father turned his head and saw him. For a split second his expression changed, like his brain couldn't accept what he was seeing. It wasn't one of his guys in the water. It was a kid. A skinny kid. A kid who should have been home, warm, dry, safe. But instead, this kid was clinging to a rock in a freezing river, because he'd shoved Lily toward the rope and chose her life over his. Lily's father pushed through the current, arms pumping, jaw clenched tight. "Eli," he shouted. "Hold on. I'm coming." Eli tried to answer, but his voice wouldn't work right. His throat was raw. He just nodded weakly and tightened his arm around the rock. Another surge hit. Eli's grip slipped. His body slid down into deeper water. He panicked and grabbed again, nails scraping stone. He held on by pure desperation. Lily's father reached him. The moment his hands locked around Eli's jacket, the river surged like it was angry someone was stealing from it. Both of them slammed into the rock. Eli cried out, a sharp sound that got swallowed by the storm. "Got you," Lily's father growled. "I got you." He hooked one arm around Eli's chest and tried to lift him. But Eli was dead weight. Not because he was heavy. Because his body had hit that point where it stops cooperating. The cold wasn't just cold now. It was a shutdown. Lily's father shouted toward the bank, "Pull! Pull now!" The rope tightened. The bikers heaved. Mud sprayed as boots slid. Pulling, someone yelled back. The rope jerked, dragging Lily's father and Eli away from the rock. The current immediately caught them. For 2 terrifying seconds, it looked like the river would win anyway. The rope went taut like a wire. Lily's father's body jerked violently. One biker nearly got yanked into the water. Another biker grabbed him by the vest and hauled him back. "Don't let go," someone bellowed, voice cracking. They pulled again. Harder. Straining. Muscles shaking. And little by little, the rope won. Lily's father wrapped his arm tighter around Eli. "Stay with me, kid," he said, voice low and fierce. "Stay with me." Eli's head lolled toward his shoulder. His eyes were open, but glassy. His lips were turning pale. Lily's father felt something cold crawl into his stomach. Not fear for himself. Fear that he'd gotten to Eli too late. The bank got closer. Hands reached out. 2 bikers leaned down, grabbing Eli's arms, his jacket, anything they could hold. They hauled him up onto the mud like they were pulling someone out of the grave. Eli hit the ground and didn't move. Lily screamed, "Eli!" Lily's father crawled out right behind him, chest heaving, soaked to the bone. He dropped beside Eli and slapped his cheek gently. "Hey," he said, voice urgent. "Hey, kid. Open your eyes. Breathe." Nothing. One biker crouched down. "He's not breathing right." Another biker said, "Call 999. Someone already had a phone out, trying to shield it from the rain. "I've got emergency on the line," a voice yelled. "They're asking if he's breathing." Lily's father's hands hovered over Eli's chest like he was afraid to touch him too hard. Then he did what he had to do. He pressed his ear close to Eli's mouth. He felt the faintest breath. Barely there. Eli coughed suddenly, a violent, choking cough that made him spit out water and mud. It sounded awful. But it was a sound. It was life. Everyone around them exhaled like they'd been holding their breath together. "That's it," Lily's father said, rubbing Eli's back. "That's it. Stay with me." Eli's eyes fluttered. He looked up, unfocused, confused. His gaze landed on Lily, though he couldn't really see her well through the rain. But he heard her. "Eli," she cried, crawling toward him. "You saved me." Eli tried to speak. Only a raspy whisper came out. "Did you get out?" Lily sobbed. "Yes. I'm okay. I'm okay." Eli's eyelids lowered, relief washing over his face like he could finally let go. Lily's father touched Eli's shoulder. "Kid," he said, voice thick. "Why'd you do it?" Eli's mouth moved slowly, like each word cost him energy. "Because," she couldn't see. That hit the group like a punch. Not a single biker laughed. Not a single one had something smart to say. They just looked at Eli like they were seeing a different kind of strength than the kind they understood. Lily's father swallowed hard. His hands trembled, not from cold, but from something else. Guilt. Respect. And a sudden, sharp awareness that his daughter might be alive because a homeless kid under a bridge had a better heart than most grown men. He looked around at his crew and snapped back into action. "Jackets," he ordered. "Now." 2 bikers immediately stripped off leather jackets and laid them over Eli like a blanket. Another biker pulled a hoodie from a bag and shoved it under Eli's head. Someone else knelt on the other side to block the wind. Eli shivered violently. His teeth chattered so hard it looked painful. Lily's father pulled off his own heavy vest and draped it over Eli too. Eli's eyes widened weakly. "You don't have to," he whispered. Lily's father leaned closer, voice quiet but absolute. "Yes. I do." Rain kept falling. The river kept roaring. But on that muddy bank, something shifted. Lily's father looked at Eli again. Really looked. The bruises on his knuckles. The thinness of his arms. The way his clothes didn't fit right, like they'd been donated years ago and worn down to nothing. This wasn't just a kid who happened to be there. This was a kid who'd been surviving for a long time. Lily's father asked softly, "Where do you live, Eli?" Eli hesitated, ashamed for a second. Then he nodded toward the bridge. "Under there." No one spoke. The silence was louder than the motorcycles. Lily's father's jaw tightened. He looked away for a moment, like he needed to control his face. Then he looked back at Eli and said, "Not tonight." Eli blinked. "What?" "Not tonight," Lily's father repeated. "You're not going back under that bridge tonight." Eli tried to push himself up but immediately winced and collapsed, coughing again. Lily's father put a steady hand on his chest. "Easy," he said. "Ambulance is coming." Eli's voice was weak. "I don't want trouble." Lily's father gave a short, humorless laugh. "Kid," he said, "if anyone here is trouble, it's not you." Lily reached out and grabbed Eli's hand. Her fingers found his, held tight. "You're warm," she whispered, like she was surprised his hand was even real. Eli managed a tiny, exhausted smile. "That's the jackets." Lily sniffed. "Thank you." A siren wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Blue and red lights flashed through the rain as an ambulance approached the park entrance. Paramedics ran toward them with gear, slipping slightly in the mud. "What happened?" one of them called out. Lily's father raised a hand. "River," he said. "He went under. He's breathing but he's freezing." The paramedics knelt beside Eli, checking his pulse, shining a light in his eyes. One of them glanced up at Lily's father and the bikers, taking in the patches and the crowd. You could feel the tension in that moment. But Lily's father didn't flinch. He just said, calm and firm, "That boy saved my daughter." The paramedics' expression shifted. They looked back at Eli with a new seriousness. "All right," the paramedic said. "We're taking care of him." They lifted Eli carefully onto a stretcher, wrapping him in thermal blankets. Eli's head rolled slightly to the side as they moved him. He looked at Lily one last time. "You're okay," he whispered again, like he needed to hear it twice. Lily leaned toward him, voice shaking. "I'm okay," she said. "Because of you." Eli swallowed. His eyes drifted closed. As the paramedics wheeled him toward the ambulance, Lily's father followed, soaked and silent, walking like a man who'd just been forced to confront something he didn't know how to name yet. Before Eli disappeared into the ambulance, Lily's father leaned close to him and said something only Eli could hear. "You did a brave thing tonight." Eli's lips barely moved. "I didn't think." Lily's father's voice lowered. "That's what makes it real." The doors shut. The siren rose again. And the ambulance pulled away into the rainy night. On the riverbank, the bikers stood in the mud, watching the lights fade. No one celebrated. No one joked. They just stood there, faces hard and thoughtful, like they all knew something had changed. Lily's father finally spoke. His voice was quiet but carried. "We find out where that kid ends up," he said. "Hospital. Shelter. Wherever." One biker frowned. "Why?" Lily's father turned to him, eyes sharp. "Because he saved family," he said. And the way he said family wasn't casual. It was a vow. The rain kept falling long after the ambulance disappeared. The river kept rushing, loud and uncaring, like nothing important had happened at all. But for the people standing on that muddy bank, everything had changed. A blind girl was alive. A father still had his daughter. And a homeless boy who slept under a bridge had proven that courage doesn't come from patches, power, or reputation. It comes from choosing someone else when you're scared. Some stories fade into the noise of the world. This one didn't. Because somewhere in the darkness, a promise had been made. And lives were about to cross again. Not by accident. But by choice.